Shabbat Shalom, people of YouTube. This is Yehusha ben Moshe Eliyahu of YHRIM Ministries. On this Yahuwah Shabbat, the 29th day of the 10th month, and this the acceptable year of Yahuwah 5998. And that is of the Solar-Lunar Scriptural calendar that is written in His Word, declared forth by His two witnesses, the sun and the moon. Bereshith chapter 1. Genesis chapter 1. I want to make a quick video today concerning the projected calendar. We have put out for a number of years the projected calendar. We've published it on our website, made it freely available to anyone. We mainly first started making these calendars as a help for those who are learning Yahuwah's scriptural calendar. We printed these calendars for a while. We made them available on our website, which people can take them and print them themselves, or even take them to a print shop or an office supply and have them printed there. Anyway, we made these as a tool to be able to help people to understand the calendar. Everybody's used to a Roman calendar, which they can look at on the wall, and they can see the day of the week, the month, and the year, and all these things printed far ahead of time. So we made a calendar that was projected 1 year in advance. We also made these to try to help people who were taking off from work, and they needed to know ahead of time to be able to schedule their days off, also to be able to schedule for the Moedim, or the feast days. In any case, the projected calendar does not replace going out at your location, in other words, wherever you currently dwell, and going out and reading the sun and the moon. Yahuwah placed the sun and the moon as His two witnesses which speak forth His calendar. But going out and reading the sun and the moon means that you are required to do it on a month-by-month basis. You go out on the very last Shabbat of the month to be able to read the moon to know when the next Rosh Chodesh, or the new month, the first day of the new month, begins. We have all of this in teachings. We have several different teachings that concern the calendar and also the Moedim. All of these is freely available on our website. With that all being said, the projected calendar, as I stated before, was not a replacement for going out and physically reading the sun and the moon. And what I'm about to go into in this video brings up a perfect example of the reason why. On this year's projected calendar, we had projected that this month, the 10th month, would have 30 days. The reason we projected that was because of the quote-unquote official conjunction times, which is put out by the Naval Observatory and other scientific observatories and labs and what have you. There's a large number of websites that you can go and look that information up. In any case, we found several different problems in just the last 24 hours concerning this for this month and even later this year. Yesterday evening, my Ima Simcha Nakamu received some questions from a close sister of hers, who we all know personally, concerning would the last sliver of the moon on the morning of the 29th, which is now in the morning, would it be able to be seen? So she got to looking and got to searching some things, and we all started talking about it. I started looking at some of the details very closely, and we found some problems. On this year's calendar, this is the original projections that we had made. If you go down here to the 10th month and the 29th day, it is the last Shabbat of the month, which on the pagan Roman calendar is the 27th day of January. Okay, this is how you read our projected calendar. We had originally projected there to be a 30th day this month. The reason for that is because the quote-unquote official projections of the moon conjunction time was supposed to be at 6:08 p.m. on January the 27th of the pagan Roman calendar. If you come back up here, January 27th, as you can see, is today, the 29th day Shabbat of the 10th month. However, 6:08 p.m. is well after sunset for where we are currently located. So we had projected there to be a 30th day this month. However, after receiving these questions from the sister, and after we started to look into this under much closer detail, we found some issues and problems with that calculation. Now, this is a program that I use very often. It's called Stellarium. It's a free program. You can download it off the internet from stellarium.org, I believe it is. You can just Google Stellarium. I'm sure it'll take you to the website. It's a really great program when you're wanting to know or to research anything concerning the sun, the moon, and even the stars and constellations. Getting back to this video, bring up the date and time here. This is the current time. We're going to go to January the 27th in the morning. This is at sunrise here. Looking east. Okay, there's the sun starting to peak. I'm going to back off a little bit. Okay, this is January the 27th of the pagan Roman calendar, which is the 29th day of the 10th month. This is at sunrise, which is in the morning, just a number of hours from now. And what's the problem that we don't see? Well, where's the moon? And you go out in the morning of the last Shabbat to be able to read the moon. If you do not see the moon, then that means that month only has 29 days. If you do see the moon, then that means that the moon cannot go through conjunction in time before Shabbat ends, which means there is a 30th day. It creates a 30th day. So, we had projected a 30th day. The problem is, you go out to look and you're not going to be able to see the moon. I can't even see it on this program, but it's right there. Now, once we have it selected here in Stellarium, it shows us that it is only 0.2% illuminated. In other words, 0.2%. That would be impossible to be able to see with the naked eye. And this is all before sunrise. Of course, if I zoom out, you see what the sun, more like what you'll actually be looking at if you walked outside and looking at the horizon in the morning. You have the sun rays coming up. This program actually dims those down so you can see more details as you zoom in closer. You will not be able to see the moon in the morning if it is 0.2%. That is far too small to be able to see the moon with the naked eye. So, going back to the calendar, if you cannot see the moon on this morning, the last Sabbath of the month, the 29th day of the 10th month in the morning, that means there will be no 30th day, which we had projected before there would be a 30th day. Now, this is all still using projections because this has not yet occurred, right? This is still in the morning. It's still future, even though it's just a number of hours from now. So how do we know if these projections are right or not? Well, looking at this in finer detail, we went to next month, the 11th month. And what we've done was go to what we had originally projected as the 15th day. Now, what's unique about the 15th day? At the beginning of the 15th day, which begins at the previous sunset of the previous Roman day, rather. In other words, here is February the 11th. At sunset of February 11th begins the 15th day Shabbat of the 11th month of the Scriptural calendar. Or at least that's what we had originally projected. So we had projected from sunset of February 11th through sunset of February 12th as being the 15th day of the 11th month. So if we go to sunset on the pagan Roman calendar is February the 11th. Let's go back to Stellarium. And we'll go to February the 11th. So this is in the morning. So we want to go to sunset. Nope, a little too far. Back up a bit. We'll switch around here. Let's get closer than that. Let's go 1 more hour. Okay, that's right there. It's just past sunset. There we go. That's the sun right at the horizon at sunset. So we'll back up over here and we will look east. We want to turn back east to be able to look for the moon, because the moon should be rising. Now the sun is setting. This is 1700 hours and 38 minutes. That's military time, which of course normal time would be 5:38 in the evening, 5:38 p.m. That's when the sun is right at the horizon. So we want to see how long does it take, because the moon's not up yet, obviously. We want to see how long that it takes before the moon comes up. So let's go forward in time until we see the moon rise. So that was 1738. And we're going to go forward here. There's an hour. And you see the moon is now just above the horizon. But what's the problem? Well, this is an hour and 15 minutes after sunset before the moon even rises above the horizon. So what's the problem with that? Well, as my Abba, Moshe Eliyahu, has taught for many years, and it's something that he learned through observation, watching the sun and the moon every month through these years, as we've been keeping Yahuwah's Scriptural Solar-Lunar calendar since between 99 and 2000, when Yahuwah first taught my Abba from his word, his true calendar. But as he has watched the sun and the moon through all these years, he learned the way to know full moon. Now, how do you know full moon? Well, most people, you look at it and they say, oh, well, it's round, it looks full, it's close, it's this, it's that, the other. Of course, you'll have people argue anywhere between 1 to 3 days of which day is full moon, because looking at it with the naked eye, some months it's very difficult to tell. However, as my Abba learned, if you go out at sunset and watch when the sun is going down, and you watch for the day when the moon rises right at sunset. When you see the sun going down and the moon is coming up, or within at least about 15 minutes, one way or the other, that is the true full moon. That's the easiest way to know what day the full moon actually occurs on. Now, what does that matter? Well, going back to the calendar again, the full moon is supposed to occur at the beginning of the 15th day. It's right at sunset. At the beginning of the 15th day Shabbat is full moon. Going back to Stellarium, what are we finding here? The moon didn't come up until an hour and 15 minutes after sunset. So there's a problem. So now what we need to do is to find which day that the full moon actually occurs, because this is not full moon. So since going back to the calendar for a moment, since there is no 30th day here, if this is correct, at this day that we will not have a 30th day in this, the 10th month, that means it pushes all the pagan Roman days forward one on the scriptural calendar. So in other words, the 28th day of January will be occurring here on Rosh Chodesh. So what happens? Well, that means you're pushing every day forward one. That means that on February 10th will actually be at sunset. That evening of February 10th will be the beginning of the 15th day Shabbat. So let's go back to Stellarium and look at February the 10th. Okay, now look how high the moon. All I've done was switch the day, and look how high the moon is away from the horizon. Let's back up an hour. All right, now the moon is just a little above the horizon. We'll back it up to right there. Now this is the moon. This is at 1747. Now remember, the previous day that we looked up, the sun was setting at 1738, so we are very close at this point, and we spin around, and you look at sunset, and indeed the sun has just went down at this point. We'll back up until we can see at least the ball. You can see there it's about three quarter still up. We'll spin back around, and you're looking at the moon, and the moon is just peeking above the horizon. So this February the 10th on the pagan Roman calendar at sunset is the true day of full moon, which means this is when the beginning of the 15th day Shabbat occurs. So that is a second witness. Now, that means that the 11th month, instead of the 10th month will not have a 30th day again, as we stated earlier with our first indicator. This is the second indicator showing that the 15th day won't have a 30th day. However, what this does cause is the 11th month will have a 30th day. Now, all we got to do, because it was pushed, this day got added to the 11th month. So now, this becomes a 30-day month. The 11th month becomes a 30-day month. Now, we have one more month left in this year on the projected calendar. We went from this to the end of the 10th month that we're at right now. We've went through the 11th month. The 10th month now has 29 days. The 11th month will have 30. Now we need to take a look at the 12th month. At the end of the 12th month, the original projections was for March the 27th at 9:58 p.m. was supposed to be the moon conjunction. Okay, March the 27th at 9:58 p.m. Here's March 27th. That is the 29th day Shabbat. However, 9:58 rather, p.m. is obviously well after sunset. But is it correct? Is this right? Well, let's go take a quick look. We'll look up March 27th in the morning. So March the 27th at sunrise. Already looking east. There's the sun. Look at sunrise here. That's just before the sun comes up. Now, where's the moon? Again, we don't see the moon. Why? Let's search for the moon. Oh, there it is. So, once again, we have some problems. This time, the moon is at 0.5%, which is 0.5%. That is still extremely small to try to see it with the naked eye. Further than that, the biggest issue here also on top of that is how close it is to the sun. Not only its proximity, but in its time that it rises. The moon is almost straight across from the sun, which means as it's coming up, so is the sun. Which means, if you're looking at the horizon, the sunlight's going to completely outshine anything else here. It would be impossible to see the moon as it rose. It is way too close, and the sun will be way too bright because of its direct proximity. The moon's not up here someplace rising before the sun. Instead, it's right next to it. So, again, another problem with the projections. This is the details that we started looking at when we started finding problems with the conjunction times. So we started looking at all these months in very close detail. So what does that mean? That means the 12th month will not have a 30th day. Which means what? That means March 28th will be the first day of Abib of next year. Okay? So if March 28th is the first day of Abib, now March, so this is March 28th, for instance. We know that March has 31 days. That's 28th, 29th, 30th, and the 31st would be right here, which means April would first would be here. So there's the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, and the 10th of April would be the 14th day of Abib, which is Pesach. So we go to that evening, that's April the 10th at sunset, okay? Now this would be next year. I'm using this year's calendar as an example, but this is, I'm talking about next year. So this, we're just saying, even though it's not on here, this would be April the 10th. So we go to at sunset should be full moon, right? So we go on here, we go to April the 10th. And this is at sunrise. We want sunset. Now right there, here's the moon rising. It's just above the horizon. We switch around, we look at west, and right there's the sun setting. So April the 10th at sunset would be full moon, which would be the correct day. That'd be the beginning of the 15th day of Pesach. Then that would be a second witness that in this year, in the 12th month, will not have a 30th day. Because if you have a 30th day here, then that sets everything back for next year, which will cause the full moon to occur at the beginning of the 14th instead of the beginning of the 15th, which is where it should be. So we originally, the way that we had next year's calendar projected, because of the way this calendar ended right here, we had next year's calendar projected as beginning on March 29th. This is incorrect. We've actually removed next year's calendar projections. We've taken them down from our website. The links are still there, but when you click on them, nothing opens. It'll give you an error page at the moment. We're going to review this calendar, next year's calendar, in full detail in the coming week. Hopefully we can get it done in this next week. We're going to have to sit down and go through it with a fine-tooth comb. This is just a few of the issues that we found. Also, if you, in the original projections for this year, we didn't notice that we had 355 days, which is impossible. The calendar every year has 354 days in the calendar in its current form. What do I mean by current form? Originally, the original scriptural calendar that Yahuwah created had 360 days, a perfect 360 every single year, which gave every single month 30 days. We got all of this in teachings. Okay, the scriptural calendar never went beyond 360 days. A 360-day calendar can be proven from the Word. You can go to Noach during the Great Flood. You can prove it had 360 days originally. When was it changed? How was it changed? We have teachings on that also. It was changed in the days of Hezekiah, when the sundial was moved backwards 10 degrees. Okay, they didn't move the sundial on the ground. The shadow moved backwards 10 degrees. Why? It was a sign to Hezekiah that Yahuwah gave him. What did Yahuwah do? He moved the sun. Okay, to move the shadow of the sundial, to move the shadow, you have to move what creates the shadow. The sun is what creates that shadow. Yahuwah moved the sun. When he moved the sun, it changed the calendar by 1 day. This is why Yahuwah gave Hezekiah only a limited option. He said, do you want to see it go backwards 10 degrees or forward 10 degrees? Okay? Yahuwah made the restriction of 10-degree change. Nothing more. That wasn't Hezekiah's option. He couldn't move it no more than 10 degrees. The reason being, if the sun had moved any more than 10 degrees, if it had moved backwards more than 10, it would have destroyed the last Shabbat of the months. Okay, the 29th day Shabbat would have been destroyed. Yahuwah didn't allow that. That's why he restricted it to only a 10-degree change. That's all in teachings. I'm not going into it here. Irregardless, the only reason that I made this video was to put out an update. We have just updated this year's calendar It is now on our website live. You can look up this year's calendar, which we have listed as the year 5998 SC, both on CST and GMT. I also want to mention that the GMT calendar projections also changed exactly like the CST calendar changes. On the GMT calendar, I looked from the perspective of London in the UK, because that's where GMT time zone is, also called UTC time zone. And it had the exact same issues that we had over here on the CST. This is why we only made these calendars as a help. They're a tool. They're to help you understand. However, they are not replacement for people going out and actually reading the sun and the moon. You have to read it for where you live, where you are currently residing. Okay, you have to go out and read. To actually read Yahuwah's calendar is reading the sun and the moon to know what it is for where you live. He made a calendar that worked all over the earth. However, it doesn't mean that it's exactly the same all over the earth. Man-made time zones, you can't take one calendar in one time zone and have it work over there. When it's night here, it's day over there. The moon does not stop phasing. Okay, it's constantly changing 24 hours a day. Therefore, you have to read the moon for where you dwell. Not to get off subject, but we have a new projected calendar made. It's now up on our website. If you simply go to our website, which is YHRIM.com, and you come down here in the navigation menu and you drop down to where it says Yahuwah's calendar. You click on this and it will open a new page. And you scroll down the page, got a lot of information here in the front. Now this is where we had the projections for next year. However, if you click on these now, it just gives you an error. Those will be updated once we can go through next year's projections with a fine-tooth comb. However, this year's projections is right here. This is the CST, or Central Standard Time, which is here in the U.S. This is the GMT, which is set from London in the United Kingdom, for which we created this calendar so people anywhere could take and translate this calendar to their time zone. However, if you look over here, you see that we have put the updated marks. If you click on this link, it'll open up another new page, which will be the PDF version of these projected calendars. Now, this is the projection update, as I've changed up here in the title. If you look down here in this bottom right corner, let me scoot over a bit. Here at the 10th month and the 12th month, we've highlighted this green. I did this to show that this was changed. There is no longer a 30th day listed here. There is a 30th day listed right here on the 11th month now, where there wasn't one before. And again, the 12th month. There is no 30th day listed. If you come down here at the bottom, these are the original quote-unquote official moon conjunction times. Now those haven't changed. This is still what they're listed as. I have double-checked them to make sure that they were correct. But this is the projected calendar for next year. So if you have one downloaded from previously, as of today, if you downloaded any time before, right now, today, then please throw it away, delete your file, whatever, go to this page, and you can re-download the calendar right here. You should have a little button that says download. You can just click that, and a box will pop up to be able to save the file. You can save it anywhere you like on your computer, and it's already got the title. You just hit save. Just save it someplace on your computer that you know where it is, like the desktop. And you can download this. It's all free. You can even take this file and print it, or take it somewhere and have it printed if you want. Of course, we only got 2 months left of this year anyway. So that is the updated projection calendar for the rest of this year. We will find out in the morning if those new projections are correct, which I highly expect them to be correct at this point, just because of all the variables and the other issues that we found. I do not believe that the moon will be able to be seen in the morning. We will see. We'll post all this information on our Facebook pages. This is also obviously on YouTube. All the links to our website and everything else is down below below the video in the video description. Please check out the links there. The link to the calendar is also in the links below. There's a lot of other issues and a lot of other things about the calendar that we could go into, but I'm not going to do it in this video. We will soon be making some videos specifically about Yahuwah Shabbat and his scriptural calendar that's in his word. My Abba Moshe Eliyahu is getting ready, getting prepared to make a video series about Yahuwah Shabbat from the scriptures. We will also be making some videos concerning some other topics related to the calendar, several other issues and things that is going around concerning calendars in general, other types, other things, other ideologies and everything else. We're going to get into those here in the coming weeks, hopefully sooner rather than later. Still working out a few little issues with our computers and camera and thing, trying to get all this stuff to be able to work together correctly. And as you've seen in this video, this was the first time that we used the screen recording in a video. Hopefully it made sense, and hopefully it helped you to be able to understand what we're talking about better. We will be using this screen recorder in the future, and as we use it more, we'll get better with it. So please bear with us. Just wanted to make this quick video to get this information out there about the new projections as quickly as possible. We will be sending this out to our mailing list, the Restoration of All Things Network, as well as posting it to our Signs of the Time Facebook pages. Share this information, share this video. Anybody else that you know that is trying to follow Yahuwah's scriptural calendar, send this link to them, send the video to them, send the link to the calendars to them. Hopefully it'll be a help. We praise Abba Yahuwah our Elohim, and we pray that he gives Israel a very blessed Shabbat today. In the name of Yahushua HaMashiach's blessed name. Shabbat Shalom.